Jonathan Berger to the VIP room. That is a mouthful, Jonathan. All right, Ohio State currently sitting as a 30-point favorite at home versus unranked Minnesota on FS1. What needs to happen in order for the Buckeyes to cover that big of a spread?
I would say wake up and caffeinate, and I truly mean that for Ohio State. If you look at their last several years, you know, in the middle of the season, when you have an early kickoff plus a big spread, I would just say buyer beware. Sometimes Ohio State can play down to their competition, especially early in the season, early kickoff. So that's what I think the biggest thing for me as I look at this game, guys, is like if Ohio State gets off to a fast start, they're going to have no problem covering the spread, but they struggle with that a lot at home in an early kickoff. And I think Haskins, he's going to have a big day. He's going to have to step on the gas in the second or the third quarter and really get the football down the field. The other thing is it's going to be like a jailbreak because Minnesota's starting quarterback's freshman, couple of starts, only completing 50% of his passes. And understand the defense for Ohio State, it's number one defense in the Big Ten in terms of creating sacks. So I think the biggest thing, Rachel, is just if Ohio State gets off to a fast start, they can cover. If they don't, there's no way they cover that spread.
John, do you think Ohio State at this point is the Big Ten's only playoff contender, or do you think maybe Michigan, maybe Penn State? How would you assess as we come into the second half of the season the Big Ten's playoff picture in general?
Well, Ohio State, obviously, I think Michigan is surging. I think when you looked at their week one performance against Notre Dame, I think a lot of people went into panic mode. They started writing off the entire team. They made some adjustments. Jim Harbaugh, I thought, did a good job as the offensive coordinator, really putting his kids in a position to play better. And Penn State's always going to be right there. But you know what, Clay? I mean, Ohio State's going to be there. I still think they can match up well with Alabama if they can advance to the title game. But I absolutely wouldn't count out Michigan or Penn State for that matter.
All right, tonight on Thursday Night Football, the New York Giants and Philadelphia Eagles are each trying to find their footing. The Eagles opened as 3-point favorites on the road, but are now down to -1.5. John, what do you see as the play here and why?
I'm going to go Giants. And the reason I say that is when you dig into this game, it's going to be really easy to take Philadelphia based on the first few weeks of the season in the NFL. But I look at Carson Wentz and I look at the Philadelphia offense. And when you look at this offense, Carson Wentz has been knocked on the ground or sacked 12 times since he came back. So the offense is a bit porous. And I think back to last year, like what made Philadelphia so special? And there were several things last year, but the biggest thing was Carson Wentz was an assassin on third down. He was completing 65% of his passes. He was converting first downs, and he was doing it at will the entire season. That's not happening this year. In fact, he's only completing 44% of his passes. That's an area of the game they're struggling. Now, I don't think the Giants are going to put up big points. I think it's going to be an ugly game, but their back is against the wall, and I think they'll do just enough to get the win. I'm going with the Giants.
John, when you look at the Eagles' offensive struggles, well documented, Carson Wentz still trying to get his feet under him. But I think what's been a big surprise of this team as well is how poorly they performed defensively. Have you seen anything as far as the metrics are concerned that say this is correctable, or is this going to be something that haunts the Eagles throughout the course of the regular season?
I think it's correctable. You know, part of analytics and look at the numbers, kind of following the smoke trails. I think you can overreact or you can over-index on a couple of games. I think it's correctable. Look, the back end, you looked at some of their big plays that they've given up. There was some confusion, some missed assignments, that kind of stuff they can get cleaned up. I think the other thing is just getting their rotation, their front four rotation, getting some guys some breaks and getting the defense to play it with greater velocity. But I don't think this trend's going to continue. I think it's something they can get corrected.
All right, moving on. The Dallas Cowboys are again the talk of the sports world following their overtime loss to Houston. The Cowboys are seemingly playing for their lives right now, with Garrett and the coaching staff playing for their jobs. John, should this motivate bettors or scare them away ahead of this week's game versus the Jags?
Well, I was in the building this week. It's a different feel for the Cowboys. There is no question that this staff feels the pressure. There's no question that this staff is going to come out. They're going to get rid of a conservative game plan. There's not going to be any more punting on 4th and 1, and that's why I like the Cowboys. Keep in mind the Jags had 5 turnovers last week, and their run game has imploded. Now, the identity of the Cowboys is Zeke Elliott, big offensive line, short passing game, play defense. Watching this game is going to feel like watching like a UFC fight in a phone booth. It's going to be kind of a boring game. But I think ultimately the Cowboys pull it out behind that run attack, but I don't see a great deal of points scored here.
I like that idea of USC in a phone booth. We could do that. CMC Sports. But listen, you're a stats guy, right, John? What statistical evidence, don't worry, what statistical evidence can you offer to best support my movement to fire Jason Garrett? Go ahead. Give me your best.
I think you can look at his playoff record. I mean, there's the people in Dallas are not happy with what's going on whatsoever. And living here now, I've never seen more of a groundswell around think about doing something different on the coaching staff. And you know how the Cowboys, they got kind of their own way of doing business. I think they've made some good decisions over the last several years, but they haven't been able to get over that hump. And I just don't think the fan base is going to be all that much more patient given the lack of playoff appearances and Super Bowl wins.
You're right. We're not.
Okay. As we talked about earlier, the Steelers play their last game without Le'Veon Bell when they take on Cincinnati on Sunday. The Steelers are currently 1.5-point underdogs at Cincy. John, what's the play in this game?
Everything will tell you to go Pittsburgh, and as I double-clicked into this game, you look at the history, everything will kind of point to Pittsburgh, but I'm going to go to the Bengals for a couple of different reasons. First of all, 4-1, a lot of momentum, 1-2 at home, double-digit wins at home. And for the Steelers to be successful, they have to blitz as a defense. This is not a great defense. They have to blitz. They have to do it a lot. And keep in mind, there's only 6 teams in the NFL that blitz more. And I'll share this with you. The number 1 quarterback in the NFL against the blitz right now is Andy Dalton. So let that sit in right now. Yes, it's Andy Dalton. So I think this team has a lot of momentum. I think they can get over the hump, and I think it's going to be up to him to really manage those third down situations. But I think they can get it done. I'm going Bengals.
All right, thanks, John. Coming up next, the guys will bet into the future. I'll explain what that means when we come back. Neil?